into something in Bedford because everyone's here.
Sheriff?
No, it's all commanded here, so you don't have to worry about that.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for December 19th, 2023. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if Pastor Jake Cox from Wildwood Baptist Church could open us up in prayer.
Let's all bow our heads and pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, as we begin this meeting, we seek your divine guidance and wisdom. In Proverbs 2:6, we are reminded that you are the source of all wisdom, so we humbly ask for your discernment as we discuss matters crucial to our community. May the spirit of unity prevail among us, as emphasized in Ephesians 4:3, which states that we should do all things, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Help us to work together harmoniously, putting aside personal interests for the greater good of our community. In this meeting, Lord, we remember the words of Proverbs 11:14, recognizing that in a multitude of counselors there is safety. Grant us a spirit of collaboration and cooperation, understanding that together we can achieve more than we can alone. Finally, Heavenly Father, we commit the outcomes of this meeting to you. Trusting in your sovereignty and guidance, may our decisions reflect the principles of justice and mercy found in Micah 6:8. We ask all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, at this time we have a public hearing, a resolution to establish the Road Improvement Special Assessment District for Captiva, Plats 1 and 2. Look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Support. Okay, motion supported. Was that Mr. Gore?
Yes.
By Mr. Gore. Any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. At this time, if anybody would like to speak to the public hearing for Captiva, now would be the time to do so.
That's not what they're here for.
Okay, I see some in the audience, maybe. Okay, all right, motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Ms. Hirschberger?
So attached, I have included the resolution and the public hearing. At this time, your numbers are a little off. I did have some people removed, but we are still above the 51%. I have 58 parcels, which equals 70%, and the land area is at 72%. The amount of this project is going to be $249,000, which is $3,000 a parcel, and that will come at the next board meeting when I bring that. If there's no questions.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
I make a motion to approve the resolution to establish the Captiva Plats 1 and 2 Public Road Maintenance District as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Janasek.
We need the dollar amount in there per parcel or no?
No, because that'll be at the next. This is just the district, so this is approving the 83 parcels that are in the district only.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda.
Can we see if anybody wants to leave?
If anybody.
If anybody from Captiva would like to go, you can do that now. Okay. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Any discussion?
Was that Mr. Gore that supported?
Yes.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 3, the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file the 8 minutes from the December 5th, 2023 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, general, savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer for November 2023. C, balance sheet and revenue expense report for the period ending November 30th, 2023.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is submitted.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Ms. Januzak, any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 4, presentations. We have Bedford Township Sheriff's Deputy of the Year.
Could we have Deputy Randy Krupp please come forward, and you can have center stage. Whereas Deputy Randy Krupp, Monroe County Deputy Sheriff, was assigned to Bedford Public Schools as the school resource officer, and whereas the Bedford Township Board, on behalf of the citizens of Bedford Township, deeply and sincerely appreciates the efforts of Deputy Randy Krupp, who, in cooperation with other members of Monroe County Sheriff's Office, is actively engaged in protecting and educating students at Bedford Public Schools, and who constantly works to assure the community is safe and secure. And whereas Deputy Randy Krupp was a 1992 graduate of Bedford High School, attended University of Toledo where he earned his associate's degree before attending Washtenaw Police Academy in December 1998. And whereas he served the Monroe County Sheriff in the capacity of the Bedford Schools School Resource Officer from 2006 through 2013, Deputy Krupp served as Bedford Township Contract Deputy from 2013 until 2018, until he returned to Bedford Public Schools as the School Resource Officer. And whereas Deputy Randy Krupp has also served the Bedford Township community as DARE instructor, as well as youth sports coach, coaching football, baseball, and both boys and girls basketball since 2008. And now, therefore, be it resolved that upon review and consideration, and with deep appreciation from and on behalf of the citizens of Bedford Township, the Bedford Township Board hereby designates Deputy Randy Krupp as Bedford Township Sheriff Deputy of the Year and declares December 19, 2023 as Deputy Randy Krupp Day in Bedford Township, and granting all rights, prerogatives, and privileges attended thereto. Congratulations.
Randy, are you nervous right now? I figured you would be. If you know, you know. I was Randy's first field training officer. So if anybody has opposition to what he did, I guess you can blame me because it all started with me. If you like what he did, then I'll take the credit. I had the privilege of meeting Randy Krupp prior to his employment with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. I'll leave it at that. Over the years, we were not only colleagues, but we developed a great friendship. The citizens of Bedford Township were very fortunate to have Deputy Krupp not only protecting and educating their children in his role model as a school relationship officer and DARE instructor, but as a coach and mentor in the school. Deputy Krupp was tenacious. His drive and work ethic is unprecedented. Unprecedented. When called upon, Deputy Krupp completed any task assigned to him without question or hesitation. I frequently hear compliments from students and parents related to Randy's work performance. Randy was always a topic of conversation as we attended the annual Bedford Trade Fair. As you know, the sheriff's deputies sponsored a booth there. We participated in that. And it was just common knowledge that somebody was going to come up while I was the sheriff, and even prior to that as I was a major, and compliment Randy's work in the school. He never wavered his commitment to the citizens of Monroe County. When called upon, he took the time to understand the nature of a complaint and the impact the incident not only had on the victim, but the offender. He made decisions based on his moral and ethical values. For years, I have credited the exemplary work of Deputy Krupp with the fact that Bedford Township does not experience a high volume of drug abuse, or more importantly, overdose and drug-related overdose deaths. And in my opinion, that speaks volumes. Bedford Township leads the county of Monroe with less deaths in alcohol and drug-related occurrences, again, because of his many, many years of interaction through DARE and his involvement in school and sports. Deputy John Bills is scheduled to replace Deputy Krupp. I have all the confidence in the world in Deputy Bills, but I will tell you he has big shoes to fill. I am sad to see Deputy Krupp retire, but I support his decision and wish him the best. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Deputy Randy Krupp form, can we get a dad joke? Sure? No. Jeff, you're on the clock now, right? Yeah, Mark.
Randy, do you want to say anything? No, I just want to thank everybody, the township, the sheriff's department, everybody that's put up with me for all these years at the school and all that, my family, everybody.
You'll be missed. We appreciate everything.
Still be around.
Oh, we know. Well, thank you. If anybody else would like to leave right now, feel free to do so. Okay, up next is a 4B, Monroe County Sheriff's Department update. Sheriff, Undershirt? Okay.
Appreciate it. Joe Hammond from Sheriff's Office, obviously. This is my first presentation here in front of this board. I had a number of comments and great stories to share, but I was asked to keep it short tonight, so because of the presentation with Deputy Krupp. So I understand you already have the stats that we typically provide, so in the interest of keeping it abbreviated this evening, if you have any questions or if there's any in particular you'd like to hear, I can rattle those off. But
I'm just curious as to how it's going with driving hands-free. Have you guys been receiving a lot of tickets still with that, or getting?
We're still getting a number of those in, yeah. I don't have the specifics for them, but I know we're still it's still a targeted enforcement for us, and we run our details in targeted areas of the county throughout the.
Because it's amazing driving how many people still do it.
It's crazy, it really is. Driving right next to them and they're on their phone,
Right.
and it's not even just a quick glance down there. It's like they're reading a whole email or something. So, yeah.
So cool. Anybody else? Comments? Questions? Nope. We appreciate it.
We'll have great stories for next month. I can assure you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Guys all set? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, next up on the agenda is 4C, Monroe Community Mental Health Authority.
Lamar Frederick, I'm here this evening as a member of the Board of Directors of the Monroe County Mental Health Authority. A few weeks ago, I suggested maybe we would have some discussion about those issues. There's been a lot of news lately about mental health illness in this country. In addition to mental health illness, we have substance use disorders, we have intellectual and developmental disabilities, just to name a few others. The Monroe County Mental Health Authority has a professional staff that works with individuals with these problems with the objective of helping them become the best they can be, and if possible, becoming independent and productive citizens of their community. This evening, I'm here to present and to introduce Lisa Graham, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Authority, to explain the services and the care available and identify some of the wide-reaching programs of the Authority. Lisa?
Thanks, Lamar. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation tonight, and I will also keep it brief. I can talk a lot about mental health, but I won't tonight. I want to give you just a brief overview of the services that any Monroe County resident has access to through Monroe Community Mental Health Authority. And I did...
You got closer when you came out, George.
Is that?
It's naturally, because you got to get there.
Okay.
You don't have to talk into it, just closer.
Okay. All right. Is this better? And I do have a copy of the PowerPoint for you. It's not showing up on the screen. I'm not sure why, but okay. So overview of services. I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do and who we serve. On page 2 of your PowerPoint, who we are. For more than 50 years, we've been the safety net for behavioral health services in Monroe County. We provide outpatient treatment to all individuals, regardless of age. Anyone who has a mental illness or an intellectual and or a developmental disability, and anyone with a substance use disorder. We also provide 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 days a year crisis services. And in this last fiscal year 23, we served approximately 3,000 individuals, unduplicated. Our vision is to enrich lives and promote wellness. It's pretty short and sweet, but we think it really says a lot about what we do. And our vision, more importantly, to be a valued and active partner in an integrated system of care that improves the health and wellness of our entire community. And our partnerships are very, very important to us. We partner with just dozens and dozens of agencies across all of Monroe County. That's okay. Good. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Great. Again, I want to keep it short and be respectful of the time tonight, but you can see here, these are just like the highlights, the top services that we provide. We provide an extensive array of services to individuals, evidence-based practices, promising practices, everything from psychiatric services to individual and group therapy, case management. We do a lot with integrated health. I don't know if you know this, but individuals with severe and persistent mental illness, their lifespan is predicted to be 25 years less than someone without a severe and persistent mental illness. And so they tend to have a lot of comorbid physical health conditions, and so we really help with getting nursing involved and integrating physical care along with behavioral health care. We have an assertive community treatment team. This is a team of people that serves the most, again, the most severely and persistently mentally ill people in our county. These are individuals who need often up to daily contacts in order to be able to remain in the communities. They are people who have histories of, long histories of homelessness or incarceration or hospitalization. We have a similar team, but it's for home-based, so it's for youth who have involvement with many, many systems or have multiple areas of challenges, and so we provide weekly, multiple times a week contacts with these youth and families. We have a clubhouse that's amazing that offers a work order day. It's accredited by an international organization. We have peer support services. We offer community living supports and respite services for people who need help to live independently in their homes, and or for caregivers of people who are who have challenges and need extra support. We have a great partnership with the Sheriff's Department with jail diversion and a jail-based medication-assisted treatment program. And again, we have a number of crisis services that I wanted this board to be aware of. Earlier this year, we were very, very excited because we went through a very rigorous application process with the state of Michigan, and we were awarded CCBHC status. CCBHC stands for Certified Community-Based Health Clinic, and what that does really is transform the way that we can deliver services in our county. In the past, you might have heard people say, oh, I went out to mental health, but I wasn't eligible. They didn't open my case. I couldn't get services there. We were funded very specifically for a certain population. With CCBHC, now we have funding to serve anyone, regardless of their insurance, regardless of the severity of their illness, regardless of their ability to pay. Anyone with a mental illness, we can now provide services to them. So this is very, very exciting for us, and that was just effective as of October 1. So really will change the way that we're able to deliver services. And part of being a CCBHC, the other exciting thing is we had to become compliant with having a 24/7 mobile crisis unit. And so we started that in July with limited hours, and October 1 we were up and running 24/7. And so now if anyone is having, we've always had after-hours services. So we've always had a phone number somewhere that anyone could call if they were having a mental health emergency or a mental health crisis. And we had somebody, usually a master's level prepared person to take that call and assist them. We also have always been the person or the agency that goes to the hospital. If anyone shows up at the hospital or is transported to the hospital because they are a danger to themselves or others, CMH, as long as they are Medicaid or uninsured, we screen all of those people, do the assessments, whether they're enrolled in our services or not. That's our job. So we go to the hospital, we do the assessment, and we determine if they need to be hospitalized, and if so, we authorize that, we coordinate all of that care. But as of October 1st, we now have a mobile crisis unit. So if a person's in crisis and they call our after-hours number, and let's say the clinician that they're working with determines that it's a bigger crisis, we can't really we can't divert them, we can't stabilize it over the phone, it can't wait. We can send out our mobile crisis unit directly to that person's location, and we have a team of 2 people, and they will go and meet with that person and do whatever's necessary, stay with them as long as is necessary to stabilize the person, create a safety plan, maybe end up taking them to the hospital, maybe calling some other family members for support. But it's been a really great addition to the services that we've been able to provide. We also have worked with the Sheriff's Department and the City Police in Monroe and Central Dispatch, and so law enforcement has a direct line to the crisis unit. So if law enforcement goes on the scene and they determine that there's a mental health emergency happening, they can call our mobile crisis unit directly, and we can then give a co-response. So we will show up, and then as soon as the scene is secure, the Sheriff's Department can leave and leave us there to continue working with that person. So it helps get the right resources to the right people. It helps allow the Sheriff's Office to not have to be held up by something that may not be an issue that they need, but more something we need to work on. So it's only been since October 1, but we're really excited. We have a lot of really good data. We have an average of a 30-minute response time, no matter where the call comes from. And we have had, every month we have responded to calls here in is this the 48182 area code? Because we keep data on where we're going. And so every month so far, we have been responding out here as well. The way to access care is very simple. There are a number of ways that people can access care through CMH. We have scheduled appointments. People can just call and make an appointment. We have walk-in services. We also do a lot of virtual or telehealth appointments. We then also come out into the community. So if you can't come to us, we will come to you. We have multiple locations. We have our main office on Raisinville Road. We just this past year, we opened another location in downtown Monroe at it's known as the Benish Building, 428 South Monroe. And then we also have limited hours, 3 days a week at the Monroe County Opportunity Programs Opportunity Center, the old Arthur Leslow Community Center. We have peer support services delivered there, and people can walk in and receive services there as well. There's a lot I could talk about just on any one of these given programs, but again, want to respect your time, but I did leave brochures, and I'll leave my business card, and you have the way to contact me if you have any questions about any specific services or any needs that you're seeing here in your county or in your area of the county that you think we could fill those gaps. Be happy to talk with you further about that at another time. Thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Steiner?
Lisa, I don't know if you can answer this. Just wondering, how many similar organizations to you are around maybe the state or even around the country? I mean, in my opinion, I think this is a major issue that's lacking in the entire United States. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things that's sort of out of sight, out of mind. People don't even think about it, but it's there. It happens on a regular basis more than people believe, and I know that sometimes people are also just like other things. They're afraid to get involved and afraid to say, I think somebody needs help, and that's something we need to break down those barriers so we ourselves, if we're not one of the people having those experiences, that we can guide that person or talk to the right people to say, I think somebody needs that help. And I think that's the big thing is just speaking out, and it's like a stigma, one of those things that people just don't want to have be labeled. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that we need to face, that we can't label somebody just because they're having mental issues or need assistance. So any help we can get, but again, if you have any idea, how many organizations around the state or around the country similar to this?
So there are about 40, I might get the number, I might be off by one or two, but there are about 46, 47 CMHs in the state of Michigan. And I think, one in every major county. Not all of them are CCBH certified yet. This is still a pilot at the state, so we were lucky to get in on that. I think there are about half of them are now certified so that they can provide care to anyone at any time and have a mobile crisis unit. But you're exactly right. 1 in 5 people will be diagnosed with a mental illness in their lifetime. There's still a lot of stigma around it. We do a booth at the fair every year, and it's really kind of funny because people are always like, really kind of like, oh, I'm not really here. I'm just picking up some literature, but there still is that stigma, that kind of uncomfortableness or awkwardness. We do at Mental Health, we have a class called Mental Health First Aid. It's an international curriculum. I would really highly suggest it. We offer it to community agencies at no cost. And it's a training that is almost like CPR in first aid. It teaches you how to recognize the signs of a mental illness before it becomes a crisis, and then it also teaches you how to respond in a crisis until the professional help arrives. And we've done that for a number of organizations. We're happy to do it for any organization here tonight that's interested. Just reach out to me. I leave my business cards here because, more people do need to understand the signs. It's just like a physical illness. When you first feel that lump, you want to go get it checked out right then. If you wait and wait and wait, the chances that you're going to recover are decrease. It's the same thing with mental illness. When you start seeing those first early warning signs, the faster that you can get somebody into treatment and into recovery, then there's a great, great chance that they will be able to fully recover and have a great life and be productive and not have to have it be the barrier that it has in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned getting somebody help that needs help. I mean, if somebody, we deal with many individuals in our community. If somebody needs psychiatric help, is that something we can call you?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we can determine what level. We'll triage. Is it a crisis? Do we need to send the mobile unit right now? Can we make an appointment? Do they want help? Do we need to send maybe a peer who can go and try to just work with them, talk with them, engage them? A lot of people are really reluctant and resistant to getting help, and so it's really important to build those relationships. But we would triage and determine the best course to take.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions? appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Lamar, we appreciate you serving. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, 4D, Monroe County Drain Commission update.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Tim Sir. I'm the Deputy Drain Commissioner. I represent David Thompson, the Monroe County Drain Commissioner. Tonight, we're putting on a small presentation on all the work that we did at the Bedford Treatment Plant over the last few years. Tonight with me is Phil Westmoreland, one of the principal partners with Spicer Group, who were our consulting engineers and did the design and inspection for the project. Phil's going to give you a real brief overview of what we did at the plant and what we're moving forward with.
Thank you, members of the board, for the opportunity to come before you. As Tim mentioned, we have a real brief presentation. I'm going to go through it pretty fast, but if you have a question and want to stop me, feel free. As Tim mentioned, this project goes back quite a few years. We actually started about 2014, 2013 in some of the planning for this. We did obtain a SAW grant for some of the pre-design, inspection work that was done to help plan all of the projects that we're going to show you. The grant funded an asset management plan for both the wastewater treatment plant and the collection system. We identified improvements to the plant. We identified improvements and inspected a big chunk of the collection system and all the manholes out there. We created a GIS out of this to be able to better track things into the future. Really, the main goal that we had for this was to reduce the inflow into the system, the I&I. The plant typically sees 2.5 million gallons at the time. It's below that now because of all the work that we've done, but it would see peaks upwards of 13. It still sees some pretty high peaks during the spring and heavy rain events. The plant capacity is 13.2, so anything above that, it gets a little sketchy. Even above 10, 11 million, the plant staff really struggles to keep things on track, make sure the treatment parameters are met. So our goal was to eliminate that, so we did a bunch of excess flow removal in the manholes and the sewer lines, and then everything we did at the plant was to really make it more efficient or safer. We didn't really do any plant capacity improvements. Eagle really frowned upon that because our base flows are so high. They want us to get the flow out of the system, not just pay a bunch of money to treat it in a few instances where it spikes. And it is more efficient for the township. So we worked on all of this through 2018 where we designed and bid it. We came back in with a construction cost at the plant of a little over $17 million. They started that in 2018. Everything was completed in 2021, working through COVID, which slowed us down a little bit. But at the end, we're at roughly $23.2 million, $23.3 million in total expenditures for everything. And I've got a slide later on that details that breakdown a little bit. We're going to walk you through just real briefly how the plant works and all the improvements that were done. We touched pretty much every system within the plant, some more major than others. And the numbers kind of show you roughly how from 1 to 5, how the flow moves through the plant, and then 7 or 8 are some additional items related to plant operations. So the first part was the headworks. This is where all the sewage comes in. We did a couple improvements here with some sluice gates and reworking some of the piping to really just improve the ability to maintain it, give the operators some options for using it should equipment go down or equipment need to be replaced. It gave them a lot more flexibility, and you can see the cost there of a little over $400,000 for this chunk. Oh, the primary settling basins are the second piece where the flow comes into. We did a small modification to this to allow the plant to bypass that if they needed to in an emergency. This isn't something they do very often, but again, it was designed to give them some flexibility to operate it in a really drastic condition where they didn't have this opportunity before. We also replaced some of the older sludge pumps that were in there. Some of these had been in there since the plant was originally built, and they were pretty rough shape. So they needed to be replaced to operate more efficiently. A little over $400,000 for that. The aeration basins is the next chunk. We didn't do a whole lot here. It was basically, there's some spalled concrete around the basins that we needed to repair. It's a little difficult because you have to do it. Well, if there's flow, it's still in the system. We're not allowed to shut the plant down to do any of this work, so it all has to be worked around the flow. So we did that. We did some more other work, concrete pavement work throughout the site to just repair damaged concrete. That was pretty cheap, only $135. Secondary settling basins. Again, it's a fairly minor improvement, but we put these weir brushes on the rotating arms that go around, and the only really thing there they do is keep the algae down. That's their main purpose. The algae is a maintenance problem for the staff to have to go out there and clean it. So the brushes just keep it down in the summer. So they don't use them in the winter. They only use them in the summer. But it keeps that maintenance down for the staff, makes it flow better, more efficiently. And we also painted some of the concrete surfaces to just prolong their life there in that track. A little over $200,000. This is where the bulk of the money was spent, is on filtration and disinfection. So this is the final real step in the treatment process for the water that goes out. What comes in with the flow, basically, to make it very simple, gets separated into a liquid and a solid format. This is the last step for treating the liquid before it goes out to the receiving water, which I think is Indian Creek right there, and then it eventually ends up in Lake Erie. So here we had some really, really old sand filters that were leaking. One of them wasn't even in service, which reduced the capacity. We could only treat about half of the water. If we had a 13 million gallon spike, the old filters just would not handle anywhere near that. So we had to replace those. So we came up with these new compressible media filters. They're not a new technology, but they're new to us, that are just these cells filled with these little red fuzzy balls, and the water trickles through them, removes some of the pollutants from it, and from there it goes through the UV system, which disinfects the flow, and it comes out. We put a new partial flume meter in there so we could accurately tell how much flow was coming through the plant. Before, it was kind of a couple old meters here and there to see what was coming through. Now with the new meter, we actually know. We built a building around all of this to enclose it, to make it more maintenance friendly, to extend the life of it. And it was a big chunk. That took the most of construction, and it was a little over almost $9 million to complete that portion between the improvements to the treatment train and the building that enclosed them. But it's functioning very well. The building is set up very nicely for them. They can get in there and maintain stuff very easily and be out of the elements while they do it. Then we had a whole bunch of other stuff around the plant that we cleaned up. In the upper left, those blue tube things sticking out of the building are the old filters that didn't work anymore. We removed all of that stuff, and you can see where on the far right, where the pumps are, the newer block is where those filters used to be. So we've got rid of a bunch of piping, a bunch of old equipment in there. Some of it hadn't been used in 10 years or more. And this is throughout the plant. There was literally an old pump in there that had been in there since the first day the thing was installed, that everybody was scared to run because it just flung literally sewage everywhere when they ran it. So we got rid of all of that stuff, cleaned up all the old material throughout the plant. The lower left photo there is actually of the lower floor below where those filters came into the building. That used to be filled with all kinds of piping and equipment. We were able to remove all that. So now the plant staff has a lot more room for storage and a room to do things they need to for maintenance activities. We got rid of the old service water system. So service water is water that we pull off the treatment train before it's fully treated, that they use at different plant processes. They also use it for cleaning and other things where they don't need to use real potable water that costs money. This is stuff that they can just use for free So we replaced that system. That used to be an ancient system, had asbestos around it. We got rid of all of that, put in a very small new skid that meets their needs, and it's much more energy efficient than it was. And then the last thing, there was an old plant drain there where all the sewage used to come in. When they built the new headworks, that got rendered obsolete, but there's still a lot of stuff. You can't do all the piping in the plant, redo all the piping in the plant, so there's still some things that drain to that. And it had these huge old pumps. We downsized those dramatically, saved a lot of energy and effort there. On that part, the administration building needed some new space. The lab was pretty old and dated. Eagle keeps upping their testing requirements and reporting requirements. So we needed to really update the lab. So we added on to the existing building. It's not huge, it's about 1,400 square feet. And really most of the new addition is the new lab and a couple offices. Then we rehabbed the old lab and a couple of the other offices to give them a little more space, make it a little more functional. They didn't really have a great break room / meeting room, so that was put in where the old lab used to be. So now they can actually eat lunch in there. And it's just more additional space for staff. We also replaced the roof on that building and did some sound attenuation to it, because that's where the building that houses the blowers, which are really loud. If you ever go to the plant, that's probably what you hear most, are these blowers, because they're constantly blowing air in large amounts through the entire plant for various processes. So we soundproof some of that to make it a little better. You can't eliminate it, but it is better than it was. And that was about 1.6. And then finally, the last process was a brand new process to the plant. So as I mentioned, there's liquid that goes out in solids. The solids are referred to as sludge, and this has to be disposed of. The old way of doing it, there's a big blue tank out there, you can see it. They would pump into that tank from their digesters where it's basically further processed into its final format. They would pump from there to that storage tank. And then a couple times a year, they would have liquid waste haulers come in and take that and field apply it. And one of the things the plant was concerned about was that was getting harder and harder to find people willing to do that, and Eagle allowing people to do that. You know, they're tightening down those regulations as well. So we wanted to come up with a new method for dealing with the sludge that didn't have to rely upon these waste haulers so much. We were getting to the point where that blue tank was nearing capacity, and when it's full, there's not much else to do with it. So, Gordon, who runs the plant, would get to the point where it was almost full, and we were begging people to come haul it for us to get it out of there. So with the new press, it takes the sludge, which is a semi-liquid, black liquid, and it basically squeezes the water out of it. The water goes back, that it squeezes out, goes back to the head of the plant and goes back through the process to be treated and sent out to the receiving water, and the sludge becomes this more dense, dry cake that they still field apply it, but it's easier to field apply because it's more inert than the liquid form. And there's more people that can take it. You can actually send it to a landfill as well. Landfills won't take the liquid, but they will take the sludge. Got to pay for it, of course. Nothing's ever free, but it gives them more options. It gives them more ability around the site. We built a big concrete pad to store all of this on it, but there's also older places within the process that Gordon can use if he needs to store it, if he gets in a bind with somebody unable to haul it. It's been a lot better. We haven't had some of the issues that we've had. They're able to haul it more often. The old way of doing it had specific windows. This has bigger windows. They're able to haul it more often. It saves us a little money because it is a little cheaper to get out. That's balanced with some of the cost of the chemicals. But in the end, it's much better for the environment, and it's a much better long-term solution than we had before with the sludge. So that was a big chunk. That took a while to get there, a lot of testing, a lot of work through that. We also replaced the digester heater, which is a heating element that all the sludge goes to keep it at a certain temperature for processing. And that went from this mammoth old unit to this little gray one that's here. And then we replaced the gas handling system that was there, that had been there since the plant was built, which just improved safety. It improved our ability to burn off methane gas more effectively. And all of this is, this stuff is aimed at long-term energy and cost savings, and it was almost $2 million. So the last component was some pump stations. There were some old, very unsafe pump stations around. These were underground pump stations built in the 70s that required the staff to do, in order to do any maintenance, they had to go down in them. Some of these were 20, 30 feet deep. It's confined space entry. It's pretty dangerous to go down there, especially with the old and aging equipment. So we rehabbed these into new submersible pump stations, so everything's above ground. The pumps are just lowered down on guide rails, and when you have a problem, you pull them back up and you work on them and you send them back down. So they don't have to go underground to do any maintenance on these anymore. All the stuff is in these buildings. You've probably seen them around. We did Smith and Lewis, Smith and Douglas, and Monroe Road for these 3 pump stations, and they're pretty pricey. They're about $2 million for the 3 of them to get them all done. And then we finished the collection system stuff, like I mentioned on that. In 2018, the Drain Commissioner purchased, and Monroe County purchased the area across the street from the plant. It's roughly 19 acres. And one of the thoughts for doing that, because it was readily available, is it gives the plant room to grow if they need to in the future. Right now, one of the limitations of the current plant is the floodplain for Indian Creek basically runs around the south side, east side, and west side of the plant almost entirely. So we're pretty landlocked in there. We had to do some floodplain management with some of the things that we did put in because we filled in part of the floodplain to be able to do our work. The end result of that is there isn't a lot of space there to do anything in the future. If any upgrades are needed or any expansions are needed, there's no room there. So the parcel across the street became available. The county bought it. I think they're using it for various things right now. Agricultural is still one. But in the future, that is there. If something comes up, we have it as an option. The total project cost at 23.26, broken down, there's a little over 18 million was spent at the plant. The collection system was a little over $1 million. All your professional services, thank you, me, attorneys, accountants, I mean, there's a whole team of people that have to be involved going through this, was a little over $3 million. There were fees, permit fees, utility fees, other costs, a little over $300,000 in that. We applied for and received SRF funding through, it was MDQ at the time, it's Eagle now. It's a fund that they have for specifically for infrastructure improvements, and it's very, very low interest. So we got a little over 21 million worth of loan to defer all the project costs. It's a 20-year payback, so you have time to pay it back. All of the treatments at the plant, their life expectancy is going to go well beyond that. So you will recoup your cost very well, and it's really, really low interest. I think it's 2%, give or take, on any year. So it's about as good as you're going to get in terms of return on investment for borrowing money for this kind of work. We just did close it out. We got Eagle loan closer notification on November 15th. So everything is closed, all their paperwork's done, everything's wrapped up. And then what wasn't covered by the loan was just worked into fund balances over the 9+ years that we worked on the project. And that's pretty much the summary of it. I know I went fast, sorry.
That's all right. So you said the 3.4 million. Who's all, that was your fee for overseeing the project for the last years?
That was part of it. So we were in there. We had to have a bond attorney in there for working through the SRF financing stuff. There was accounting in there for that. I'm trying to think who else we had. I have a breakdown of it.
Most of it was engineering and inspection.
But yep, that's a big chunk.
Okay. So as far as the county agency admin fee of $124,000 a year, that's just a separate fee for the plant itself.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That's based on the total dollars, and it's a percent.
Okay. Within the plant, how many actual employees work daily at the plant? Is it the same employees that are employed at the plant on a
Yes,
daily
there are a set. It varies. We don't think it's around 17 although we do hire 2 summer seasonal employees to help mow and do different things during the year, so it increases to 19 in the summer.
And so you have different trades in there, electricians?
Yes, we have all
Millwrights.
kinds of different trades, yes.
Okay, and that's about 15 people then throughout the year. Then you have 2 seasonal.
There's 17.
Which makes 17.
Yeah, not
plus
all
2.
are full-time. You have some employees, like we have 3 operations. We have a drain, which is storm water. We have a sanitary department, and we have a water department, South County Water. And we have 2 electricians. And so whatever facility or one of the triads they're working, they bill their time to that location. The electricians do spend a lot of time at the treatment plant with the
So the
operation.
employees are shared throughout the county then?
There are some shared employees.
Okay. Okay. So I was part of an email a month or so ago. I think Mr. Miller sent out a bunch of questions.
Mm-hmm.
That was really the last I heard of it, other than when I asked Trudy and Krista if they got their questions answered in the end. I think some of them were good questions. All of them were good questions.
Okay.
Could I get some answers to the questions? Do you have those questions in front of you? Or
I don't have the questions right, but I'll try to answer them.
So one of them was we could not locate the July 1979 or the August 1993 Bedford Township agreements to set aside funds yearly for the replacement or fix it. Did we find these agreements? Do we need to have legal write new agreements?
Well, the drain office could not find the old agreements. I think one of the 2 were found. They were agreements that were with the county and the township at that time, and they were to put aside additional funds for the reserves for projects like the one that just happened.
Right. Okay. So we don't need to write a new agreement is what you're saying?
I don't know that. This coming year is a really look forward year where we've had 2023 where things are kind of normal at the plant again. So we're trying to provide a baseline of what are like our electric usage and all our different chemicals and things that we use moving forward as far as budgeting. And then we're going to look at hiring a person to come and oversee and look at some of the operations after the first year and see where we are financially to make sure that we're on track, like a third set of eyeballs, and then verify to make sure that we're looking good for the next 20 years. Okay. Part of this project was to evaluate all the systems within the plant and say, okay, we want them to last 20 years or longer before we have to go back and do a major renovation.
Okay. And the one of the questions was the $3 million that you guys hold that's Bedford Township's fund for the sewer plant, correct?
Yes, there is about $3.5 million in reserves.
Well, that's invested.
Yeah, and that's part of the O&M. I mean, it's a reserves, but it's to offset any shortfalls that we have in O&M over the course of the year, which is about 1 year of operating.
Okay, and those interest that goes back into that fund and keeps building.
Yes.
Okay.
Those funds are invested through the county treasurer.
And that's fully insured?
As far as what?
Like the money that's in there, you know, the bank went bankrupt or something, those funds are insured up to the full amount?
The county treasurer would have to answer some of those questions, but they are invested in the county treasurer.
I'm still waiting.
And
I'm still waiting for the county treasurer to respond to me.
Well, I think you can look at that. We talked to ARPA same way when we had our $3 million plus. That does not cover $3 million in one fund. You're right.
One of the questions. So I mean, it's
so that should be diversified.
Yeah. Well, that is not up to the drain commissioner. That is up to the county treasurer how those funds are invested.
And I'm still waiting for him to get back to me.
Okay. So the audit, is that something the county does for all the agencies together, or is this the 25,000?
Yeah, we do.
Is that part of the audit?
We have an auditor that comes and audits all the agency books. The Monroe County Drain Commissioner is the county agent, and that's why we run the water, the sewer, and the drain department. The county drain commissioner by statute is always in charge of in different counties for drains, but in Monroe County, instead of creating a DPW or doing something else, they created a county agency in the mid-late 60s, and that's when the water and sewer became part of the county agency. and as a result, he oversees those.
Okay. So Bedford Township, say in 20 years when the loan's up, they decide, hey, we want to run the sewer plant on our own. We think we can save money. Is it going to be a problem with the South County Water or the Drain Commissioner owning that 20-acre property?
Each department is audited separately,
No,
but
I'm
they're
saying
all
with
under
that
the
property
agency
that you guys,
umbrella.
with that property you guys
Well,
own.
You're getting into a different area, but basically, these kind of systems are always going to need funding. They're always going to need upgrades. So in 20 or 25 years from now, there's going to be another, maybe you'll end up building a new plant, maybe you're building across the street, you're making expansion, who knows what it'll be, but that'll mean a lot of money, probably $50 to $100 million. The township is beyond the bonding limit of an individual township. That's why there's a county agency. So the county of Monroe will back those bonds for these local municipalities like yours, and then as a result, that'll carry you into the next time another improvement happens. So this bond is currently for 20 years, and we hope that these improvements will last more than 20 years, but as we get to that 20-year mark, there will be some major improvements that need to be made.
So back to the admin fee. Is that your guys' fee with the Drain Commissioner's office to run and operate the system?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, there's accounts payable and accounts receivable gal, and then there's an accountant that are paid out of that agency fee that all the different O&Ms pay to pay for that person or persons.
Okay.
It's a fee to operate county agency.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah. Bob, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask? I know you were part of some of the questions. Did you get all the answers you had?
Well, I do know.
You got to come to the mic.
I do know Mr. Sorgo will be up in 8B, I believe, to give the budget presentation, so he may cover the rest of the answers there.
Okay. True.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what your question is.
Anybody else have any questions?
Paul, I got a
Mr. Gore?
real quick. So getting back to the 20-year payback and the $23 million that was spent, with the technology changing, how much time, I don't believe we're looking at 20 years with all this equipment, with technology changing. What's the life expectancy? How much time did this $23 million buy? Technology is going to change. Things are going to get research and development. There's going to need to be stuff done within 10 or sooner years, not 20.
I don't think the technology to treating sewage is going to change that much in 20 years. It's a sound system away. It's where most of the treatment plants around the state of Michigan, around the country, treat sewage. We have updated some of the systems, and it's not like AI is going to come and create a whole new way to treat the sewage. I don't see that happening. Phil?
Well, it should be 40 years, right? That's how long they'll last.
Yeah, it depends on the improvements. Things like pumps, they only last 10 to 15 years on average. If they're not used a lot, they can get a little more out of them, and they require maintenance even in that time frame. So the thought is to get the major things out of the way, the UV system, the sludge press, all of that stuff, it'll continue to operate for a long, long time. There's UV systems that have been in place for 30, 40 years that are still there. They'll still operate. They may not be quite as efficient, in 20 years, but they'll still be there and able to treat it. So there is some things that you'll have to happen, but as Tim said, there's nothing earth-shattering that really comes out with this kind of stuff very often. It's a pretty slow pace. So even things like replacing the pumps, when you get 15 years in and you replace it, they'll probably have some new technologies for monitoring and starting and stopping the pumps and energy efficiency, but they won't change dramatically where you would have to do it. If yours are still there and functioning, you can just let them be.
How much growth can all these repairs handle? I mean, South County Water, South County's growing, the population's growing. how much, have you guys done any analysis to see when you might have to possibly think about building across the street? Because when you're talking $50-100 million, it's a lot of money.
We don't, at the current growth rate of Bedford, Bedford is way past the building boom that it had in the 90s, early 2000s. You've had slow, steady growth since then, but the treatment plant can handle that growth. That was some of the reasons of eliminating the I&I. Put it in layman's terms, basically, we're treating stormwater sometimes because people's sump pumps are connected to the sanitary sewer, and as a result, we're trying to eliminate some of that I&I. Some of it was cracked pipes, some of it was bad manholes. We did that kind of work. But we're going to find out here in the next couple years, based on the rainfall intensities and how the plant's operating, how much extra capacity we have. So that the way it was read before is the plant was maxed out at 13.2. We don't know if that was an exact number or not. We only would reach that very infrequently. Most of the flows are 2 to 3 million, and now they've been less than 2 million since the improvements. So, but during the heavy rain events, guess what happens? People's sump pumps start running. As a result, they're pumping to the sanitary. We get more water at the plant, and we treat it. We treat all of it just like even during low flows. And as a result, we're going to see the improvements that we made and how that's going to add to. We didn't increase the capacity. We just repaired what capacity we had in the past.
Aren't we only roughly at 25% capacity? What capacity, do you have an idea what capacity we're at right now?
The 13 million is kind of, that's the maximum amount of flow, million gallons per day that we can handle. You know, the last heavy rain events, we've not gotten to there. So time will tell us what kind of capacity we have. That'll be the truth. To have the back-to-back 20-year storms, 25-year storms, 50-year storms, whatever's thrown our way, we'll be able to gauge that and see what kind of flows we have, and we'll know what we're able of. But with the current growth rate, we're fine.
The only caveat I would add to what Tim said is the collection system part, not at the plant, but the collection system itself, does require ongoing maintenance. I mean, that's where we get the water out that goes to the plant. So we always recommend, you know, that's a nonstop maintenance thing. You have a very, very large system in terms of area, footage, number of manholes. You cover a pretty broad area compared to some cities. So all of that pipe, you know, it doesn't get better over time. It deteriorates, the manholes deteriorate, and that's a constant work in progress there. So the work that we've done there is good for now, but in 4 or 5 years, you might need to do another manhole and pipe repair program to kind of, as you see the flows creep up, you just do that and bring the flows back down.
It's just, to me, this is just a different setup. We write checks for $450,000 every other month, and we do multi-million-dollar, $20+ million projects, and we really don't have much involvement other than paying the bills. You know, so for me, you know, I like to be involved. I like to kind of, you know, get down a little more detail, and we don't really get that with this. You know, so it's a different setup. It's not that we don't trust you. I think you're doing a good job, but it's just, you know what I mean?
You can gauge it by how many calls have you gotten with sanitary sewer backups that were in the mains or problems that we have jurisdiction over. Now, people have backups in their houses, or the tree in the front yard, the tree roots grew into their line from the street to the house. That's the homeowner's responsibility, or the business. But we have very few mainline problems. And when we do have them, we fix them. And there's a case where technology has gotten better, where we can line the pipes instead of digging them up and replace them at a fraction of the cost.
Real quick, and I'll change a little bit. Last meeting, we got information that you guys are going to change some wording and some policies from public to private.
Yes, we're working on that.
And is that still going to take effect in January?
We are working through those changes. There's a stakeholders meeting in the week of the 8th, of January the 8th, and we think by the following week we'll have all the answers to all those questions.
Okay. And I didn't know if
for now, the January 1st.
January 1st is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't see an update on that because I was just wondering, because the builders would be responsible for the
Yeah,
private portion.
there is a fiduciary responsibility that the Drain Commissioner has for the ratepayers, and that we have to make sure that liabilities and legacy costs are not passed on to the existing ratepayers for anybody that's added to the system. So we want to make sure that moving forward, those liabilities and legacy costs are limited as much as we can to protect the systems.
Which means pushing it on to the builders or the HOAs or something like that.
Not necessarily. We're working through all those details. There's going to be some changes made, and it's going to require some help from the township board with respect to design standards, potentially ordinances, and then we'll work through all those issues.
So with the meeting being canceled January, somebody's attention got, I'll leave it at that.
Maybe for another meeting.
Another
Anyway,
meeting.
The engineers, the county.
I can come back, hopefully in February, we can talk about the outcome of everything.
Anybody else, Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, Joe, he got to probably about 90% of the questions, especially when it comes to the future and expansion. I did want to ask too, the other night I caught just the tail end of something on the news that had to do with Toledo and some of the future expansions that they're working on and potential. They had a vote coming up here, and I didn't catch the whole thing. I wish I would have, about moving some potential new costs onto the citizens of the Toledo area. They did mention the surrounding communities, southeast Michigan, and things out to the, like Sylvania, Rossford, everybody else. And he said, thanks to some of those 40-year contracts they got put into place with those surrounding communities. But my question is, have they been involving you in whatever kind of current, because I know you do some regional work,
Right.
Any kind of expansion or any kind of things that are going to take place within Toledo, that if they do pass something, that any of these costs are going to come on to us or to Monroe County?
So we are part of the Regional Water Commission. We're one of the founding members with the other outlying districts. That's for drinking water. That's South County water. And yes, we have a 40-year contract, and yes, there was an initial $500 million at the treatment plant in Toledo, and now there's an additional $300 million in different projects, a new intake line, just all kinds of new reservoirs coming that'll hold water in case there's algae bloom in the lake. They'll be able to draw from the reservoir to still produce drinking waters, so we don't have the crisis we had some years back. And that is all built into the current water rates. And as far as South County water is going, there is a small increase this coming January, but for the most part, we are in a very good position because we were already paying very high rates, and the rest of the communities are coming up to us. Us in Sylvania, had newer contracts, and therefore we're paying surcharges. Those are all going away. All the communities, including the city of Toledo, will be paying the same bulk water rate. Of course, then we have our own water department that we have to fund on top of that, but that's a small department, and that provides clean drinking water to Lunapir, Erie, Bedford, and LaSalle, South County water. Now, the other thing you may have heard about was the sanitary sewer. We are not involved. We have nothing to do with the sanitary sewers that are going on in Toledo, and thank God. They're having major problems, just like they have with their water system. $800 to $1 billion of improvements are needed, like ASAP. The Ohio EPA is mandating those improvements, just like they did for the water system, but we're not a part of that cost. Bedford Township has their own treatment plant that services the community of Bedford and a little bit of Erie, and as a result, we're self-contained. So their costs don't translate into our cost. So they're talking about quadrupling their rates or whatever they're doing, but it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, with those, because I know somebody that worked in the water distribution down there, so I had a lot of experience of listening to some of the things that took place down there and some of the upgrades that they had coming. I knew that part, but I just wanted to check and see if there's any of the other stuff from the regional standpoint. But I'm glad to hear that, in your opinion, I'm not going to hold you to it, but in your opinion, that our numbers, our increases should be limited to nothing at this point.
Well, our for the treatment plant, we have to pay off the grant
correct.
bond issue.
Correct.
And of course, we're going to have our normal increases for whatever chemicals, labor, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that's all within our control.
I'm talking about the ones that are passed on from Toledo.
But they're not passed on.
That's-
For sanitary, we're not
Right.
receiving any of their cost.
Just wanted, so everybody understands, anybody that heard
Now,
that,
there may be one or two houses that live right on the Ohio-Michigan border that actually are tied into the sewer in Ohio. They're on their own. We have nothing to do with that, and they are billed appropriately from Ohio.
okay.
There are 4? Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just like to say I'm thankful for the grant that you guys went after years ago for this. Can't imagine paying 4 or 5% for a project like this, but that grant was a really good grant to capture, so good job. Okay, next up, public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. 4A, congratulations to Deputy Randy Krupp. 4B, I just shared an article with you people that was buried in a Saturday edition of the Monroe Evening News. This is something the DDA has been dealing with, and I believe that the board should ask the sheriff to give a public presentation on these cameras because it does impact the residents of the township, and that's the flock cameras. In addition to that, I'd like to speak to 8C. Disappointed to see only one bid. The impressive write-ups were great, but I would wish that they would have put some dates on those. I could speak to some of them, especially the TAP grant and temperance. So it would have been nice to have the dates on that particular page. And I still think that the township should consider bidding these projects out versus giving a blanket silver tray option to just one particular group. But since we didn't get any other bids, maybe that's why we have to go up this route. 8D, I believe Jake Lake is highly qualified. I have sat at BZA meetings where I have seen him set aside personal relations in order to fulfill his obligations to abide by the guidelines for the rulings and making his decisions. So I definitely feel that Jake is very, very qualified. As to 8E, I do have some concerns, but I'm not going to agree or disagree. With the logic that was stated in the memo and the goals stated by the candidate, I just have some questions, but it's, it is what it is, and we'll go from there, and I believe that was all. Thank you.
Okay,
kindly.
thank you very much, Ms. Keene. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, moving on. 8A, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $51,340.25. Fire District Fund, $34,030.52. Fire Equipment Fund, $1,239.96. Downtown Development, $845.07. Library Operating, $4,045.39. American Rescue Plan, $3,962.18. Road Capital Improvement, $3,510. Building Department, $294.21. Sewer O&M, $8,294.85. Trust and Agency, $1,490.13, for a grand total of $109,052.56.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Janizek. Any more discussion, questions, comments? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, resolution to approve the 2024 budget for operation and maintenance of the Bedford Township sewer system.
Tim Sergo, Deputy Drain Commissioner. We have before you the budget proposed for 2024 for the running of the Bedford treatment plant for county agency. This last year was our first year kind of uninhibited with construction that was going on at the plant. It was an unusual year where we had a lot of rain in February. We ended up getting our average rainfall. And all those kind of things are important because it depends on how much electricity we use and how the water comes to the plant. And so as a result, the budget is always a work in progress. And we proposed the budget this current year. And the budget from 24 to 23 is not significantly different except for under sewer outside services, which is in the middle of the page. There's a $200,000 number, and that if you were to take that $200,000 out of the 3.3 million, that would put us with 5,000 less than the previous year budget. But that 200,000 is for long-term maintenance. We need to, when the sewers were installed in the 60s and 70s, to limit the number of pump stations that were needed, they put some of the sanitary sewers adjacent to the county drains and ran with the creeks that run through the county, like Indian, Bragdon, Halfway Creek. And the tree growth is getting pretty extensive on top of the sanitary sewer. Some of the trees you can't get your arms around. So we're going to propose that we're going to start clearing some of that right away over the next few years to clear at least where like Halfway Creek is, a 20-foot swath right on top from manhole to manhole, and clear those trees so that we don't have any tap roots from the trees trying to get into the mains, the sewers. Because they get to the joints, it's almost like a hair on your head, and then they start expanding and they can break. And they're also hard on the manholes. So the 200,000 is this last year we did some manhole rehab, which replacements. We have a few coming up, and we're going to continue to look at replacing some of the worst manholes. We did try to fix some of them, and that's a process of doing injection and doing repairs, and some of them did not work real well. We still have a lot of water coming in. They're groundwater retreating, so we're going to replace some of those, which will have better seals. And but the thrust of that money, and we want to see what we can get done over the next few years to clear the right-of-way. And then once the right-of-way is cleared, we would go through once a year in the fall and mow it. The best example of that is Bragdon Run or Bragdon Ditch from Lewis Avenue to the east and then looking west all the way over to Jackman. We've cleared that right away. We're in the process of mowing it. And the sanitary sewer, for whatever reason, zigzags back and forth. Didn't follow exactly with the creek. They kind of followed a different course for some reason. And therefore, we're going to try to keep that mowed for in perpetuity. So where the sanitary sewer follows the county drain system, it is very beneficial also for the county drain system to keep that mowed. So that will be assessed to the drainage district for the ongoing maintenance. Halfway Creek is a natural water course, and that will have to be paid for eventually when we get to the mowing part by the system. The most expensive part, though, is getting these trees cut and then getting managed. Think of it, our stuff is all in ground, just like the power company's cutting the trees for the wires. We've got to make sure we limit the tree growth on top of we have not had any significant problems, but we're worried that if we do have a major problem, one, how do we get to it? And the fact that they run parallel to the creeks, heaven forbid we wouldn't want to have a mishap with sewage going down the creek.
Tim, could you speak to vehicles?
Mm-hmm.
Do they use vehicles at the
Yeah, you have, there are 4 pickup trucks and 1 jet truck. 3 of the 4 are virtually brand new. We'll get a lot of years out of those vehicles. In the past, we've had a $15,000 per year vehicle reserve fund. That'll also be reevaluated this year as part of our new look at all the different parts of the system.
Is that something that they use and share with the county as well? Do they take these vehicles to the other parts of the county? And if so, do they share in the cost?
Not necessarily the other parts of the county. So there is whenever a vehicle is used, whatever O&M paid for that vehicle also receives a rental for that vehicle. So the two electricians, they drive 2 vehicles that are not Bedford vehicles. So when they come and work on your stuff, you pay a rental rate for their truck and then pay for their wages when they come and work. On the flip side, in the mornings, the Monday through Friday, our guys go and check the pump stations that run the sanitary sewers. They also stop and check the water station at Lewis Avenue and the one on Dixie that pumps the water for the sanitary to make sure the station's running right. You know, it's one thing to have all electronics, but they want to go in the building, listen to the motors, check some gauges, make sure that the pumps. So their time and their rental fee is paid back to Bedford for a limited amount of time that they use to do those stops. Now, is your vehicle being sent to maybe or Ida? The jet truck does go there once a year. It is to clean their sewers, just like all your sewers are cleaned every year. We physically run a pipe with a jet hose, and we make sure everything is flowing good for all the mains. And then there are other areas that we do more regularly than once a year. But once a year we go to Ida and maybe, and then your truck is reimbursed as a rental fee for that. It's sharing services. So you're sharing a mechanic, you're sharing electricians, you're sharing, just like there was a sewer break over off Jackman a couple weeks ago, the water department came and fixed that. So their time and their equipment was charged to Bet Sewer O&M. Just like, so the beauty of it is with the 3 departments is that we are able to have this group of very trained technical people. We have 1 master electrician and 1 journeyman electrician that instead of hiring outside services, they come and fix this stuff internally. So yes, they do.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Mr. Matra?
I just had a couple little questions about the actual budget. I think the audit and legal line and the sludge removal and disposal line both had for the first 6 months of 23 they're exceeding 50%, and then it doesn't seem like that's being factored into the 24 budget. And I didn't know if that was just something that you guys are well aware of, and that's an early year type thing, and there's no expectation for that same thing. Same thing with the 300,000 vehicle equipment rental in the sewer line for the 2023 that has a $30,000 budget. I don't know if that's a typo or if that is. I'm
sorry, which one was it again, please?
So that one is in sewer. The first 6 months of 23, that's 309,000.
In sewer, the first 3 months.
Vehicle equipment rental.
Oh, the 309,000. That was for out. It says if you look at the arrow, it says included with the arrow down.
Yes.
That was part of the outside services of clearing the right of way for Bragdon.
Right. So that was that project.
Yes.
And then
just
so that's a
one
one-time thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's why we've implemented the 200,000 for outside services moving forward to try to do some of that on an ongoing. We're going to try to manage that on an ongoing basis.
And then the other 2 were just the audit and legal and sludge removal disposal.
Yeah.
That were like you spent for audit legal it was $25,000 in the first 6 months, and then only 35 budgeted for the next year. I assume that there's an explanation. I just was curious about those.
The audit and the legal, sometimes those costs vary somewhat. Also, it depends on, we haven't gotten
The first 6 months doesn't include what's coming that we're doing right now. And the reason it was probably up because of there was a whole lot of additional counting because of the project and the auditing. Whenever the state gives you money, you have also additional work that has to be done, and that will be tapered off now that we finally got final closure of the project.
Yeah. Then that's what I see. And then this is running a calendar year fiscal too, right? That like your first 6 months is January to June,
Yes.
or not? Okay.
Yes.
Tim, have you guys looked at solar at all for the plant?
We didn't look at solar. We looked at one time using the methane produced from the system, and it wasn't cost effective.
Okay.
To capture that methane and reuse it in the plant. We don't have a lot of space currently on the south side of Lavoie Road for any kind of solar, because it would be in a floodplain, and that wouldn't be ideal. And it'd be in the real floodplain because the way the back of the plant drops right off into Indian Creek. The upper side, as you get to the road, is within the 500 year, and the property across the road is like a gift from heaven, where the company, that was their expansion, and they chose to sell that land. It's about 19.5 acres, and as a result, it came up the market. We bought it within a week because the main sewer line runs on the north side of Lavoie Road, and it runs on that property and then crosses and goes under the road right into the headworks of the plant. So anything we do over there with storage, a new plant, any kind of anything, we have the room to do that, and for the most part, we're out of the floodplain.
Okay. Mr. Steiner?
Just a couple of questions too. I know that Mr. Miller had asked about replacement schedules for machinery and equipment, also vehicles, and at this time there isn't one.
No, we don't. We typically keep. The way the plan is set up is that the older employees train the younger employees, and that when equipment goes bad, like a big motor, we will take that motor out, then get it rebuilt, and then reinstall it ourselves. So there is a lot of maintenance that goes on all the time. Some treatment plants hire all that out, bring in the mechanical people and the electricians. We all do that in-house for the most part, which is a huge savings long term. And that system has been in place since you started the plant, where the older employees train the younger ones, and they're all very mechanically inclined. By the time they've been there 10 years, they're excellent mechanics. And what that also does is, because our guys do so many different things, they're eligible to take the state licensing test. Where if you were to go to work at a big plant like Yuck or whatever, you're pigeonholed in one certain area, and you have to be able to have knowledge and work in different areas to be eligible as part of the testing. But because our guys do it all, they can start with no licenses and top out at 8. In fact, we had our second A operator just got notified last week. A young man that's probably the future of the plant. He's been there 15 years or so, and he's just got his A license, which is the top rating. He can go any place in the state and work. And Michigan license is a state where you can go to a lot of other states and take your license and work. They're very valuable, but it's a lot of hard work to get to there so that they know how to run these treatment plants.
I know there's a couple of comments I saw in some notes. The budget is about a third for fringes, labor and fringes.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the math there, like you said, about 15 to 17 employees. Now, that's not 100% full-time.
No, they're not.
But if it was, that average is probably from a general, just their regular income, somewhere in the range of upper 40s to maybe close to 55, 60,000. With the fringes and everything, you're looking at 65 to 72, 73,000. If it was spread among 17 employees.
It's actually a little less than that. Some of those are the floaters, the electricians, the mechanic. They don't work full-time at your facility, although they do spend some time there, quite a bit of time. a guide that we're currently short 2 positions. Currently, it is a unionized position with full benefits, healthcare, dental, eye, retirement. The older employees have different benefit packages. That's changed over time. Health insurance is pretty universal, but the starting pay at treatment plan operator is only $19.52 an hour. It tops out at starting your 5th year at $25.68. Then of course your foreman, and then they get paid for all the additional licenses they get, and they also, depending on their positions, the foreman, the assistant treatment plan operator, the superintendent, they all make more money, of course. The superintendent has to sign all the reports that go to the state, and is responsible for the accuracy of those.
And your skilled trades, of course,
right. And
make more as well.
Your electricians, your mechanic, they make more money.
I was actually sort of pointing that out, not so much as a negative, but understanding.
Yeah.
A third of the budget sounds like a lot of money for labor and fringes, but once you break it down, it's a little easier to understand in today's environment. I mean, some of those, like you said, if somebody's starting down 19 something an hour, that's not a lot. Even at your top end at 25 something, you're a little over 50,000 a year. Now, granted, that doesn't count your fringes, but still. I just wanted to actually explain that a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing is we're a 365 operation, 24/7. We run a shift from 7 to 7 in the morning, the 8-hour shift, and somebody has to be there on the weekends. So they have rotating weekends, and that's overtime. And then anytime there's a major alarm that goes off, they're called. The electricians get called a lot because everything's going electronic, but they have to go and answer those alarms, and why is something in higher alarm or being alarmed at all. And as a result, there's overtime paid for that accordingly. But they all have, those are the part of the duties they know they sign up for. So there are times when there could be a major catastrophe at any of the departments, and the other departments chip in. It's kind of like your firemen in the communities, and when there's a big fire, item may come or whatever. It's the same thing between the water, sewer, and drain department.
It's like a mutual aid.
Yeah.
Did you have any more questions? Do you? Come on up.
Most of these questions have been answered, but I just need a little bit more. Oops, go ahead.
Go ahead.
A little more clarification. You did touch on the labor and the employees. I think we should sort of see a spreadsheet just so we can understand what we have going. So I'd like to see that. We talked about the fixed asset and vehicle funds that were removed from the budget, so we're going to be responsible for budgeting that now. I think it'll be important for us to get a replacement schedule. I know they train employees to do maintenance, but with replacement of vehicles, replacement of equipment, it'd be nice to know some sort of schedule so we can plan a budget. So I'd like to see that. We touched on the rental income a little bit. We did discuss about taking the rental income and moving that income to the actual vehicle account. I'm not sure if, Chris, if you've heard anything on that yet?
I'm sorry.
The letter for the rental income. We were going to get a letter, or you were going to write a letter. Okay, so we still have that as a follow-up to do. What to do with that rental income, where to post it. There's also the balance sheet. The fixed asset fund, there's like $3.7 million, whatever. I think that's misrecorded in the balance sheet. They were going to get that corrected. I haven't heard back on that yet. And we did touch on the cash a little bit. Chris is working with her treasurer to get that resolved. But I think someone brought it up here. We are correct. That fund, all that money is invested in one CD at one bank. That is a interest rate risk. It's also a lender risk, having it all in one place. And that's something that we can help with. Those are the questions I had.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Tim, did you want to touch on any of that?
I didn't remember all the questions, to be honest with you, but the BS&A accounting program, which is widely used around the state of Michigan, the one item that was categorized, we have reached out to BSNA. They are making a change to the program to categorize it a little differently, how you wanted it categorized, and that should be probably done after the first of the year. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the other questions he had. It's been a long
I think
day.
maybe you could just give them the
Yeah,
follow-ups. I think it was the rental agreements, lease agreements.
Yeah, there are no
budgeting
formal
for
rental
the-
or lease agreements. It's a rental rate between the different O&Ms that the log sheets show, and then it goes back and forth. Either you're paying or you're receiving.
Saying we have to budget. for
Replacement
vehicles?
fund, yeah, the money currently goes into your O&M revenue. Should it go to the reserve for the vehicle? Yeah, it could go there, absolutely. That's not a problem. I think that just needs a memo requesting that. That's fine.
Us budgeting for the vehicles, what's, he said that?
Yeah, they currently, in the past, we've had 15,000 going to a reserve for that. We took it out this year because we're resetting for 24 and trying to figure out moving forward what the actual amounts. We have a lot of reserves on hand, which is a good thing. So with the current economic times, we want to make sure the budget seemed appropriate for the times, that there would be no huge increases to the ratepayers. Doesn't mean that if a vehicle needs to be replaced, it could be replaced. We're sitting on over $3.5 million of reserves at our level, at the county level. That is your money, and so as a result, there is no exact replacement schedule for this pump or that pump or this system or that system. That is done periodically on a 10 to 20 year basis and determined what the conditions are, and the repairs are made as needed. And it's been that way since they established the plant in '68.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? Okay. I look for a motion. And I would just like to add that what an asset it is having Tim involved. He's from Bedford. He truly cares. He's involved very much. Always has good answers, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 budget for operation and maintenance of the Bedford Township sewer system as presented, and also that our finance manager will continue to work with Mr. Sergo and his team about some of the budgetary breakdowns that we are requesting.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Berger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Okay, item 8C, approve bid for engineering services. Ms. Hirschberger?
So you did receive the minutes from the bid opening. We did only receive the one bid. I also included the notice for consultants, the request for qualification proposals that I had posted. I know Mannequin Smith is here to answer any questions that you have, but proposal is in front of you.
Anybody have any questions for them? Comments? Okay. You guys have anything you want to add? You don't have to. No. You've been great to work with for all these years, and I'm extremely happy. And you know, as I work directly with you guys a lot, and I know the other departments are extremely happy, and I'm thankful the board went through the process to put it out for bid, and thank you, Trudy, for doing it. And you know, so okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve bid for engineering services with Mannequin Smith.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported, Mr. Bruning. Any discussion? Mr. Steiner?
Just if we should note, friendly amendment, that we should note according to the fee schedule that they presented here in our packet.
I'm fine.
Could you call the roll?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 8D, appointment to the Planning Commission. I'm looking for the board to approve the appointment of Jake Lake to the Planning Commission, term ending 12/31/26. With Mr. Lake's background and past service to the township, he's more than well qualified. He's served on planning in the past. He's served on BZA. And Ms. Keene's right. I've known him since I've been a kid, and when I went to the BZA, he voted no. And he puts all things aside, personal feelings aside, and he goes by the book, and he's very sharp. So I highly recommend Jake.
Mr. Supervisor, I've worked with Jake myself, Board of Zoning Appeals. Like you said, very, very intelligent, smart gentleman. He puts a lot of thought and work into his process. Therefore, I would make the recommendation, my motion to appoint Jake Lake to the Planning Commission as presented.
I actually have to make the motion. So I'll make the motion that Jake Lake be appointed to the Planning Commission effective 12/31/26. You could support, though.
I'll second. No, I won't support. I'll second it.
Okay, you second.
Term ending 26.
12/31/26. Okay. Could you call the roll?
Mr. Peroni.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Mr. Montroy.
Aye.
Ms. Janasek.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Boy, that was a lot easier than last year. A couple years ago. All right, 8E, appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm looking for the board to approve the appointment of Mike Bassinger to the Board of Zoning Appeals, term ending 12/31/26. With Mr. Bassinger's background and past service to the Bedford Township, he's well qualified for this position as well. And I'm not sure if everybody on here knows Mr. Bassinger, but he's been very involved in construction over the years and is a very sharp guy, so highly recommend him. And I'll make that motion. That we approve him to the Board of Zoning Appeals, term ending 12/31/26.
Second.
Okay, supported by Mr. Steiner. Any more discussion? Could you call the roll?
Mr. Peroni.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Mr. Montroy.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Ms. Janasek.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, motion passed 7-0. Okay, up next is comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I've had some people call me and inquire on something. I don't have a Facebook page, but apparently there's some concerns with other people using the title, so this is basically more for the legal department, I think, using the title Bedford Township to title their Facebook pages. It gives a false sense of who is actually overseeing it, I guess. There apparently is one that's called, Bedford, I think, Community News and Events or something of that nature, and it gives the appearance that it's the township speaking, and I guess it's not. So I'm questioning, does the township have a right to take an ownership? I don't know what they call that stuff out in Facebook world, where they take an ownership for that title that prevents other people from using it and then misusing it. I don't know. It's just a question. So that's all. Thank you much.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I wanted to add something to what Lisa Graham brought. Prior to the change in October 1st, where the Monroe County Mental Health Authority could take anyone who came through the door for mental health services, prior to that, you had to qualify for Medicaid, which stopped a lot of folks at the door. We no longer have that issue, and that's important for our citizens here or anywhere in the county. If there are mental health issues, It doesn't matter if you don't qualify for Medicaid, if you have private insurance or no insurance. Come and see us. We'll provide the service, and that's important to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh Neercore, 7948 Wiseman Road, Lambertville. I want to announce that next year in the 2024 election, I am running for Bedford Township Park Board. I feel that the current park board has done somewhat of a disservice to this community, and as a taxpayer, I think this community deserves a lot better than that, so that's why I want to help make a change. Also, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none.
I forgot. Happy holidays to all you guys.
Well, thank you, Lamar. Okay. Would you like to say happy holidays, Ms. Keene?
Sure. Merry
Okay. There you go. Good boy. Okay. Mr. Steiner?
Simple tonight, just Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. And biggest part of that is be safe and be smart in what we do out there.
Mr. Montry?
Yeah, I just want to say Merry Christmas, and then I had a note just to follow up on, I don't know who that goes to, but we did we sent out for a wage study however long ago, and I don't know if there's an update on that or when we're hearing back on that, but that was just a question I had. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Gore?
Say Merry Christmas to everybody, and see you in the new year. It's been a good year on the board. A lot of good things coming up in the next year, so looking forward to it.
Mr. Bruning?
I'd just like to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. Good luck to the Mules wrestling at Pinckney on Thursday. And also good luck to my oldest son, Jacob. He's down at Parris Island Marine Corps Boot Camp. He'll be graduating in March.
Okay. Ms. Janizek?
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and be safe.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
I want to tell everyone that the Township Hall will be closed on Monday and Tuesday, December 25th and 26th, and again on Monday and Tuesday, January 1st and 2nd, to observe the holidays. The audit is complete, and they will be coming to the board in January to present that. The Clerk's Department will be sending letters out the beginning of the year to those of you who have signed up to be election workers. The training will take place in January. I want to wish my grandson Elijah a happy 10th birthday. And lastly, I would like to wish the board and the citizens a Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and a Happy New Year. That's all.
Okay. Did you have an update on the wage study, where it's at?
We are.
Because I don't have an update.
We're still waiting for answers. They came back, but it wasn't really a complete study, so we asked them to go back out and get more information. Okay. And they're having a hard time getting the information from the other townships. One, most of the clerks are in charge of that information, and as you know, we just had November elections and then all the new rules, so they're still waiting for, they ended up FOIAing to get the information, so they're waiting for the FOIA and those information to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I, again, wanted to thank Deputy Krupp for his service. I know the schools are going to miss him deeply. People like him are huge assets in school systems. I wanted to thank all the volunteers and sponsors for Blizzard Fest this year. We had I'm not sure if anybody made it, but we had a great Christmas event at Compelled Church. I want to thank Compelled Church for hosting. Thousands of people came out and were able to enjoy rides, carriage rides, eat, and just enjoy hours of fun for free. The group raises roughly $32,000, and every dime is spent on the event. And I want to thank Lake Erie Transit for providing the buses for the event. So, like I said, it was a great event and heavily attended. So I want to thank everybody involved with that. We are getting the deed restriction for the property on Temperance removed. So we just sent in a check for $50. That's what they required to get it removed. So we'll be getting that back hopefully in the next meeting or two, and we'll get that on the agenda hopefully to sell that piece of property. Any properties we have that aren't usable that we just mow, people can't use them, so they're no good. So we need to sell them if we can. I too want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I want to thank the Community Health for coming tonight. Thank you, Lamar, for serving on that board. Recycling for Christmas trees starts December 26th to January 14th, and they can be dropped off at Car Park again as every year. And I'll update on the flock cameras as Ms. Keene asked. These cameras only take pictures of the cars that go through. There's no video. There's nobody watching it. Nobody from other computers or other areas can watch it. Other flock systems within the country. So if somebody is wanted a vehicle and they drive through that area, it'll flag them and it'll go to the flock system. And that's how they catch a lot of people. So I know Tractor Supply was hit again last week, and those are the things that hopefully we can catch people with. Somebody robs the liquor cabinet and, you catch their license plate. You say, hey, a red truck just left, they'll catch their license plate. After every 30 days, they're gone. They rotate them unless you pluck them out there because of an ongoing investigation. But it's pretty simple what it is. It'll pay dividends in the long haul, and hopefully it reduces crime when people realize they're going to get hit when they come in. Other than that, it's been a great few weeks, and I look forward to a new year. And like Mr. Gore said, it's been a great year. A lot of good happening. I'm hopeful with our sidewalk programs that we have going on. Like I said a couple meetings ago, unfortunately, we're dealing with a hiccup at the Jackman and Dean sidewalk. The apartment owner, Mr. Peacock, would like $15,000 for that, so I'm not sure if the board would like me to put it on the agenda to discuss it. I think it's a shame that somebody would ask for that kind of money because our kids need a safe spot to walk to these schools, and a lot of homes are connected. I also think it's a poor idea for this board to start engaging and handing out that kind of money because we do need easements. And when people find out, we'll get $15,000 for every little easement. This is only a construction easement. It's not even a permanent easement. So we're working with the road commission and hopeful that we can get something worked out to where we won't need an easement, but it's not looking good. So we'll have to either, my opinion would be, take the sidewalk across the street and connect it to the high school like we had planned and run it down in front of Jackman Road Elementary and run it across our property and just stop it at his property. And someday he'll sell and maybe we could get the easement. At least we'll have that much done. We could get all the crosswalks put in and be prepared. Maybe we'll get a different owner at some point that's more willing to give these kids a safe spot without asking for a large amount of money. I know Manica Smith is working on the other sidewalk easements. The clock is ticking. We have plenty of time to still get the funds spent. We are meeting with Mr. Jacobs with the maintenance building. Is that tomorrow? That's tomorrow. Yeah, 3 o'clock tomorrow to kind of get some things ironed out. I know there was a little bit of a hiccup with what the board originally wanted with us keeping ownership of the prints, so we're going to work through some of that. So, yeah, a lot going on next year. Myself and Krista are going to the Federal Aid Committee meeting tomorrow, where they have.
Thursday.
Is it tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. It's tomorrow. That's the meeting. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll figure it out. But anyways, the meeting's tomorrow or Thursday, one of the two, but I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. Lots of projects from the federal aid coming to Bedford Township, so it's going to be a great year. Get a lot of stuff done. So, other than that, anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned.
I think they